My name is Tamiko Nimura. I'm a creative nonfiction writer and public historian. My medium, you could say, truly is words. I have worked in online essays, newspaper articles, book reviews, biographies, oral histories, graphic novels, and things like museum exhibits and curriculum for schools. Anything that has to do with words, bringing people together, particularly bringing together the intersection of history and my personal family story. I grew up with an extended family of particularly Filipino American and Japanese American family members. Some of them were creatives themselves, writers, librarians, artists, visual artists. So I've always been interested in writing, but I took a detour into teaching, and then really once I had a bad breakup with academia, decided to really go for being a writer full-time. There are a couple of things that have influenced the direction of my work that I remain obsessed with, for good or for ill. The first one is the early death of my father, Taku. He died when I was 10. And that's a really early time to lose a parent. There's not necessarily a great time to lose a parent, but I lost him when I was 10. And that formed me in pursuing all of my work around Japanese American history, around Japanese American culture, Japanese culture, in an effort to try to stay closer to him and keep that connection. The other event that influenced me certainly was the wartime incarceration of my Japanese American family, my dad and his siblings and my grandparents. Those two events then, mean that these are events that I am working out different kinds of grief, different kinds of anger, different kinds of sources of strength and resilience. Part of what fuels the creative process for me is that power of what words can do, how they can create empathy, how they bring people together across time, space, geography, across all kinds of boundaries to help us inhabit each other's experiences better. I was always fascinated with the power of an image, and the power of an image and the power of a moment. And even when I work now, often what I will do is think of one moment that I want to build towards and work from there and work backwards. So I'm working on my third book right now, and I have a particular moment that I'm writing towards that will take a good couple hundred pages at least to get to. I wish I could say that there were some really easy tricks, or levers that I could pull, to bring people into the heart of my story or others' stories. But I do think that it begins with a certain amount of empathy, compassion, feeling into the story. Others might have different approaches, to bring people into stories. I was not trained as a journalist. I was not trained as a historian. I was trained in story, in the power of story. And any tricks, levers that I pull are because I've been immersed in those kinds of tricks for so long. And sometimes, I'll actually go and look at other people's writing or other people's stories and go, that I would like to try that in my own work. But I think it begins with the idea of empathy and feeling my way into that story. A lot of what I do is rooted in the knowledge that I have a really nurturing community, a really nurturing family, and so much of what I do is to try and repay what they have given me and how they have nurtured me. And I hope that I will be able to continue to do that. When I was teaching, kind of on a whim, I had my students do this exercise where I had them write their own obituaries, which is sort of ridiculous. They were college students, but it stayed with me. And as I was writing, my oldest daughter was maybe in kindergarten or so, but in my fake obituary, I had her say something like this. She just loved the way that words could bring people together. And I think that probably is what she would say, and that is what I hope my work does in some way, that it brings people together across these boundaries of time, space, geography, race, nation, whatever, that it brings people together.
Some days I wish to go back to the days of swirling slides and swing sets. Playing detective with magnifying glasses, we were doctors with roly-polies for patients. And playing cops and robbers always ended up a little too rough. I miss measuring time and my height, feeling pride when my feet touched the ground when hanging from monkey bars. Those days, it's like it was just yesterday. So clear and vibrant, but some days the rose tint fades away. I can only go back to scraped knees and bruises. I only remember stress that I was too young to handle and a fear of walking to school alone. I remember wearing clothes that stretched across every bit of skin because God forbid I get sent home for a skirt I was wearing. And when I didn't, even though we learned to keep our hands to ourselves, some refused to. Those days are twisted and tied in complexes and traits I wish to get rid of. Some days I know that I can't. For every day I live in a memory as though if I stay I can go back. Other days I take my stories, transformed into heirlooms, and give them to whoever asks. And some days I embrace change as an old friend and accept that there's no way back.
My name's Chuck Taylor. I am a photographer, encaustic artist, printmaker. I got interested in those skills just by career choices. I've been a boat builder. I've worked for a fire department. I've done a jack of all trades, master of none. And with that, I've acquired the ability to be an observer of life. And to do that, I picked up photography. And for one thing, it proves we exist, and so that's why I do it. It's a way for me to keep track of my memories. I don't necessarily have a process, a creative process. It's just kind of whatever moves me and how I can move along to accommodate what I've envisioned. Encaustic is beeswax that's been treated with damar resin, a hardener. At different levels, you can add different mediums to the beeswax, and you can paint on different levels. So you can use oil, dyes, you can also embed things. So the process is wax, harden, different layers. I liked it because it preserves my photographs. Again, I want to prove that I existed in this world, so that's what interested me in encaustic, was the ability to preserve my images from deterioration. How I approached my art was through necessity. And the world has not been, you know, I just never had, I've had opportunities, but I've never had anything that's consistent. Other than my photography and my encaustic painting, which I've been doing encaustic for about the last 10 years. And then the photography for about the last 30. I believe that art and creativity is here for all of us to explore. So art is art to me. It's whatever the human vessel wants to produce for themselves. It's like therapy, get us through the day.
Sorry it didn't make it. We gave it our best try. The disappointment kills me. Saw the glimmer in your eyes.
I'm Adrian Milanio and I'm an R&B artist.
The painful way too strong.
I mostly work in R&B music, and that involves creating my own music alongside working with other artists that need production help. So whether it's them needing help with recording, mixing, editing, that sort of stuff. So a lot of the skills that I've learned in my own art, I'm able to translate over to some of these other artists that I help with.
tell you how much I miss you.
So I feel like music has always been around me ever since I was growing up, whether it be like my parents playing it in the car, going to Costco, a doctor appointment, to me being involved in school, in jazz band, in choir. And the thing that really got to propel me into doing music for myself was I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 17. It's a very stressful moment for me. It's like my first time really going through something that traumatic, and one of the things that kind of helped me cope with it was songwriting. So in the time that I was at the hospital, I had a lot of time to think to myself. That sort of was like the thing that kind of made me take life and my music more seriously.
For every storm that we have weathered, it came around a second time.
So I use this space in multiple ways. So Spaceworks has been a great partner with me in terms of me developing my music and like my artistry. And I got to take actually a business incubator program through the Spaceworks program, which has been very beneficial to my development as an artist and business person, and also developing a network here. And I've been able to write a lot of songs in this space. And quite honestly, at first it just became like a place to record, but then it became so much more where I have like meetings in here, and I have inspirations and conversations with people, and I've done a lot of the business development through Spaceworks and been able to do a lot of shows through Spaceworks, and I've been very thankful to have this space and alongside the community around it to help elevate myself and what it is that I've been doing the last few years. I hope that it helps validate their truth, and I feel like, especially in the Asian American community, I think representation is a challenge, and it's starting to get better, but in terms of like the mainstream representation of Asian Americans, there are things that I feel like go by the wayside aren't necessarily as dominant as some of the other platforms that are out there. And I think just me being an Asian American and having people across the world that look like me also say that my music resonates with them, and it is inspiring them to be able to do what it is that they do. As much as like I consider myself to be an artist, I find that music is beyond just the art form itself, and a lot of it is just being able to relate to the community that I'm in, being able to share my experience with other people, and also give entrepreneurial mindset to some of the artists that I work with. The more you learn, the less likely you are to be taken advantage of in the music industry. So I think just me learning what I've known and being able to give that back to some of the artists that I work with has been such a blessing for me.
A poem for Tacoma creatives. Art in our gritty city of destiny is a fire that never rests. It erupts in a torrent carrying pride and passion, hope and healing. It smolders in coals that refuse to be banked, even when buried in packed ash layers of economic disappointments, even when drowning in the insistent flood of gentried waters from the north and from the south. It flickers sly fingers reaching out to awaken our eyes, our ears, our minds, burning its way through us, or both. Art in our gritty city of destiny is a fire that never rests because it does not forget the past. This living blaze honors ancestral caretakers of this land and the ancestral caretakers of our hearts. It remembers and recognizes those harmed and herded away. It works to remove rooted blights of injury and injustice. Its smoke whispers our worries and wishes. It sings the song of our mountain, our city's most sincere soul. It fills our mouths, our throats, our lungs with an air that sustains, even when the suffocating toxins from rancid politicians and societal systems cannot be escaped. Even when the waves of this virus continue to crest higher and higher, and there is little civil air, safe air to breathe. Our art, our people are a fire of gritty persistence and power, and we will never rest. Thank you.
Mili, 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 mili. Lua pati, Lua pom, lua patsimale om. Oh!
Siva Laia masisio nima pese fia iona viinga le fa'aola tanga waia amai fa'afeta Yesu ila ualofa o te pese mafa'ane ene tau pelo sili ese le mana mea oi tumau pea oi lau pele. Le mana mea oi, tu mau pe